Hi everyone, delonewolf here and welcome back for another EVE Online video. Today's video is obviously going to be a discussion video. I'm actually using the green screen on this one. I changed things around a little bit on my battle station, giving me a bit more room and a better setup when it comes to the green screen. So perhaps I'll try to use it a little bit more, especially for these discussion videos. It could be interesting to give that a try. So we are going to discuss the latest dev blog because there are minor changes in the sense that I don't think this costs a lot of development time to rebalance a ship or to change what alpha clones have available to them as skills. But on the other hand, these have potentially really big impact on the game. So if you want to read along, you can just go to eveonline.com, click on the articles link, which brings you here. We've got some EVE Online news as well with Ether Wars Part 2 coming out. I'm more curious about the results than actually participating here, but it is interesting to see that CCP is still really pushing for that Ether Wars technology to see if they can give us bigger, better battles in EVE Online. And what we're going for here are dev blogs, and you can see here the latest one, Vexor Navy issue and Alpha Clone drone skill changes. If we take a look at this dev blog, actually, what I find the most interesting is not necessarily the changes themselves, but the two sets of changes are aimed at somewhat different goals, but since they impact the same area of gameplay, Gnostic Riders obviously, they're gonna discuss them in this one dev blog, and these are the only balance changes planned for the next month, and we'll discuss some of these other balance change proposals being developed in separate future dev blogs. I'm really curious to see what else CCP is planning to balance in the game, maybe in the summer, maybe right after the summer. But they are promising more balance change, which I think is good for the game. CCP really does seem to be wanting to look at the health of EVE Online in general and taking, well, pretty risky and drastic steps in order to try and improve it. And so the Vexor Navy issue is coming in their crosshairs. You would expect perhaps the nerf hammer to hit it really hard, and it does if you want to AFK a rat in nullsec, but it actually gets a lot in return. So let's go take a look at the changes of the Vexor Navy issue that are planned here. So for the bonuses, we'll still get a 10% bonus to drone hit points and damage, but also the tracking speed actually goes up from 5%. And then it also receives a 10% bonus to medium hybrid turret damage and tracking speed, which is very nice, and a 7.5% bonus to armor repair amount. So those two are new and are, well, looking at them, pretty damn powerful. Of course, there's gonna be something to nerf in return, and that is gonna be down here. Drone bandwidth and bay drone bandwidth goes down to 75, leaving 50. 75 is rather an odd number. I think if CCP didn't want a ship to really outshine anything else when it comes to its drone usage, they usually go for 100, like with the Stradios, allowing for 4 large drones. It's still really good damage, and PvE wise I think still very useful. I think you've seen me fly the Stradios in exploration sites and do a really good job with 4 sentry drones, and so 75 is to go even below that, is to really lower its drone damage potential for more AFK PvE activities. It still gets a little bit more of the fittings as well, because it gets an extra turret, and other than that, well, it's basically a little bit lighter and a little bit smaller in signature radius as well, making for, I think, not so much a PvE platform anymore, but a really high potential PvP platform. This could really be a brawling ship with decent and very well tracking drones with hybrid turret damage. Of course, we're thinking blasters here, and then that armor repair amount bonus to keep it alive in the brawl. Very, very nice, I think, for small gang, for people that want to try and get into the face of the enemy right up close, and then just smack him around with all of that damage from drones and from hybrid turrets. Very Galente as well, so I personally like this a lot. Now for my exploration activities, I've been thinking about that as well. I think it could still do the job, but of course compared to an Ishtar, compared to that 5 large drone damage potential, it is going to be a lot less effective. Basically, you want to get into that hybrid turret damage range or optimal range in order to get the same DPS as what it can do now. And for the PvE activities, especially exploration. That's a lot of work to do in order to try and make this work. On top of that, against the Sancha, tracking is not gonna be that great whenever they're starting their tracking disruption, so the hybrid turrets might be completely useless at that point. I'm not seeing that as an option for exploration anymore either. It's really gonna be Stradios or Ishtar, I think, for that. I'm personally also really curious to see what the Gnostic Riders are gonna use to replace the VNI after these changes. Are they going to upgrade to a Tick 2 to the Ishtar? I think you will want to be an Omega for that, so for Alpha Clones that's perhaps not really an option. Then I'm thinking Dominix, but overall, if those are the two most logical options, perhaps also the battle cruiser, the Myrmidon is an option, but that still doesn't have the 5 large drones, so I think it's still gonna be less effective basically than the Vexor Navy issue. Yeah, it's going to change ratting in Gnostic quite substantially, and it's gonna be a pretty big hit for the botters, I think, where the Alpha Clone Vexor Navy issue combination will have been very, very successful when it comes to just a more AFK playstyle, which of course botters would absolutely love. So yeah, really curious to see what they're gonna choose. Either go for higher cost, more risk by investing in an Ishtar and going for Omega, I think, in order to get the most out of that ship, or just take more risk because a bulky battleship like a Dominix is gonna get caught a lot more than a Vexor Navy issue. Now that's the only thing that's changed. Of course, the Alpha Clone drone skills are changing as well, and here CCP is straight up saying these changes are focused on our ongoing anti-botting efforts. I would say the change to the Vexor Navy issue is the same thing, but they are definitely changing this ship to try and give it another use than the niche that it is now the king of. So rather than AFK ratting and PvE, this is really becoming a very interesting PvP ship potentially. So you could see that as, well, we basically don't want it to stay the king of that niche. We need to make that a little bit harder, which is, I would say, still aimed at bots as well. But the change to the Alpha Clone drone skills is straight up aimed at making the Alpha Clones less effective in that AFK PvE aspect of EVE Online by reducing their drone skills substantially to what they can train. So heavy drone operations goes from 4 to 3, medium drone operations from 5 to 4, and then drone interfacing from 4 to 3. This allows them to still use Navy faction and integrated medium drones, but no longer use Tech 2 and augmented medium drones. A serious reduction in their drone damage potential for the Alpha Clones. Players that have already trained those skills will find them locked out. So unless you go Omega, you're basically going to have a serious reduction in what you can use and how much damage it is going to do. And overall, I think that this is really nice. And as I've said here at the beginning of the dev blog, what I found really interesting is that CCP announces that these are not the only changes that they want to do when it comes to balancing the game, and these feel like thought-out changes that the community has often commented on as well. I think the AFK Vexor Navy issue ratting problem and how popular it was with bots is something that's been pointed out quite often to CCP, and it is good to see them take action to try and balance the changes. Looking at this from the broader perspective of, well, this is coming right after the Gnostic blackout, they are really doubling down here on making it harder to have the best income in 0.0. You're gonna have to actively fly for that PvE content as well. There's more risk, of course, because local is gone as well. And CCP does seem to, at this point, have decided on making it harder to live in Gnostic, bringing that risk back in Gnostic. We'll see if they'll hold the course, of course, or if they will, follow up with changes to the game that'll actually make it easier again to have more security in 0.0. But for now, they are really going very hard on basically upgrading my activities in EVE Online. The high-sec Care Bears are watching their efforts in the game being way more rewarded, I think, if Gnostic income goes down substantially. That's also why we're going to keep a close eye on the economic report of next month, of course, which will then show us the numbers for July. Maybe we'll have to compare them to the June report here, which is already out, but it will be very, very interesting to see what kind of an impact all of these changes that are obviously, you know, aiming at what's happening in Gnostic very much. And yeah, we'll see how all of that works out and what CCP decides to do after that. I personally am very much for this, especially the Vexor Navy issue change here. I think that makes a lot of sense, and it is not becoming a useless ship. I think that is a very important part here, and cutting down on the potential for the alpha clones when it comes to just creating one, injecting the skills, getting into that Vexor Navy issue and starting your AFK botting / ratting career. That was not great for the game, I think, and yeah, this is to me a sign that CCP is looking out for the health of EVE Online. Very, very welcome in my opinion. So let me know in the comments what you think about these changes and what CCP is doing at the moment with EVE Online. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.